Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Hari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Hari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Hari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yashodanandana Jamuna Tira Vana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Hari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Hari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Hari Jaya Gopi Jana Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yashodanandana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radha. Jaya Radha Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radha. Jaya Radha Damodar Radha Damodar Radhe. Jaya Radha Damodar Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Gaura Pimanandi Jayam Vishupad Paramahamsa Pri Vrajgacharya Stotra Satya Sri Samadhi's Divine Grace Chiraboy Charanarvin Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Iskandi Biti Founder Charya's Divine Grace of the Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Samavata Bhakti Vrinda Ki Harinam Sankirtan Ki Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jainithai Gold Pimanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and to Sri Gauranga. All glories to Sri Prabhupada. Om Agyanatimirandasya Dhyananjana Sarakaya Chakshurandalitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaisnavam Scha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanditam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakanditam Scha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namustate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Vyayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, let us first offer respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Nara Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Praya Sabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering a service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, it becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samhitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Sakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreyasaya Lokasya Dhamyam Swasyaya Namaha. This Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantaraj, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God, the Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Om Surabhyaya Namaha. 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 Mukam karoti vasaram pangom nangayate girim yatripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Yatkripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna. Welcome to our Bhagavatam class. Continuing from chapter 18, 11th Canto, chapter entitled Description of Varnashrama Dharma. Today we begin from text 37. Na hi tasya vikalpakya ya cha mad vikshaya hatha a dehantat kvachit kyatis tatah sampadyate maya nahi tasya vikalpak
nahi tasya vikalpakhya
yachamad vikshaya hata
yachamad vikashaya hata
adehantat kvachit kyatis
adehanta kvachit kyatis
tatha sampadyate maya
तथा संपद्यते मया
nahi tasya vikalpakya
नहि तस्य विकल्पाख्या
yachamad vikshaya hata
या च मद्भिक्षया हता
adehantat kvachit kyatis
आदेहान्तक्वचित् ख्याति
yata sampadyate maya
तथा सम्पद्यते मया
nahi tasya vikalpakya
नहि तस्य विकल्पाख्या
yachamad vikshaya hata
या च मद्भिक्षया हता
adehantat kvachit kyatis
आदेहान्तक्वचित् ख्याति
tatha sampadyate maya
तथा सम्पद्यते मया नाहि तस्य विकल्पाख्या
nahi tasya vikalpakya
मद्भिक्षया हता
yachamad vikshaya hata
आदेहान्तात् क्वचित् ख्यातिस्
adehantat kvachit kyatis
तथा सम्पद्यते मया
tatha sampadyate maya
नाहि तस्य विकल्पाख्य
nahi tasya vikalpakya
या च मद्वीक्षया हता
yachamad vikshaya hata
आदेहान्तत् क्वचित् ख्याति
adehantat kvachit kyatis
तथा सम्पद्यते मया
tatha sampadyate maya
नहि तस्य
nahi tasya vikalpakya yachamad vikshaya hata adehantat kvachit kyatis tatha sampadyate maya not he certainly tasya for the realized person vikalpa of something separate from Krishna akya perception ya with perception cha also mat of me vikshaya by realized knowledge hata is destroyed until deha of the body antat the death kvachit sometimes kyatihi such perception tataha then sampadyate achieves equal opulences maya with me. Translation and purport by disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. A realized soul no longer sees anything as separate from me, for his realized knowledge of me has destroyed such illusory perception. Since the material body and mind were previously accustomed to this kind of perception, it may sometimes appear to recur. But at the time of death, the self-realized soul achieves opulences equal to mine. Kind of repeat after me. A realized soul no longer sees anything as separate from me. For his realized knowledge of me has destroyed such illusory perception. Since the material body and mind were previously accustomed to this kind of perception, it may sometimes appear to recur. But at the time of death,
at the time of death.
The self-realized soul achieves opulences
Achieves opulences
equal to mine.
equal to mine.
Purport. Lord Krishna explained in verse 32 of this chapter that all material and spiritual objects are expansions of his potency. By realized knowledge of the Lord, one gives up the illusion that anything, anywhere, at any time can be separate from Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna has also explained, however, that one must keep the material body and mind fit for executing devotional service. Therefore, even a self-realized soul may sometimes appear to accept or reject certain conditions or objects within this world. Such a brief apparent duality of concentration upon something other than Krishna does not change the liberated status of a self-realized soul, who achieves at the time of death the same opulences as Lord Krishna in the spiritual world. The function of illusion is to separate one from Lord Krishna. But the brief and occasional appearance of duality in the behavior or mentality of a pure devotee never separates him from the Lord. It does not constitute actual illusion, for it lacks the essential function of illusion, namely the separation of one from Lord Krishna. The purport continues. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur describes the self-realized devotees as follows. The devotee of the Lord does not see anything as separate from Lord Krishna, and thus does not consider himself to be a permanent resident of the material world. At every moment, the devotee is moved by his desire to serve Lord Krishna, just as those who are inclined to sense gratification pass their time making arrangements for their enjoyment. Similarly, the devotees are busy throughout the day arranging their devotional service to Lord Krishna. Therefore, they have no time to act like materialistic sense enjoyers. To ordinary persons, it may seem that a pure devotee is seeing something as separate from Krishna. But a pure devotee is actually fixed in his status as a liberated soul and is guaranteed to achieve a spiritual body in the kingdom of God. Ordinary materialistic persons cannot always understand the activities of a pure devotee of the Lord, and thus they may try to minimize his position, considering him to be the same as themselves. At the end of life, however, the results achieved by the devotees of the Lord and ordinary materialists are vastly different. Translation again. A realized soul no longer sees anything as separate from me. for his realized knowledge of me has destroyed such illusory perception. Since the material body and mind were previously accustomed to this kind of perception, it may sometimes appear to recur. But at the time of death, the self-realized soul achieves opulences equal to mine. Srila Prabhupada was, after being in the West for some time, in one exchange he had with his devotees, I mean, Prabhupada had left family life many years back, gone to Vrindavan, as we know, taken Vanaprastha, and then eventually took sannyas. And sannyas means preaching. So he had taken up the mission given to him by his spiritual master. Although having been a sannyasi for a number of years, so in one such exchange with devotees, one time he mentioned, sometimes I think about my wife. Sometimes thought of my wife comes. So just like here it mentions that pure devotee is one who is like on the transcendental platform, but sometimes he may seem, what's the expression here? Yeah. Since the material body and mind were previously accustomed to this kind of perception, it may sometimes appear to recur. So Prabhupada was telling that sometimes thoughts of my wife come to my mind, but I don't act on it. Just like the example is given of the ocean. So many rivers are coming in the ocean, but the ocean remains calm. So in the same way, actually, so many, because of, before becoming devotees, so many thoughts and so many interactions and so many impressions and whatnot. So even after we become devotee, because we're still here in the material world, some of these thoughts, some of these impressions may come. But because we have been cultivating, or we are cultivating Krishna consciousness, we know how to deal with these thoughts or impressions, isn't it? And this requires, of course, as it is explained here, that the symptom of someone who is actually on that transcendental platform, his main focus, his main preoccupation is how to help fulfill the mission of the Lord. But due to previous contact, so sometimes mainly it will be like thoughts and impressions will appear. This is Krishna himself who is speaking here, and telling that at the time of death, as such, an individual who is engaged in my devotional service will attain me, will attain opulences similar. So to attain that platform, or to be on to remain on that platform, one needs to, of course, have followed the path of what is called sadhana bhakti. Prabhupada explains very nicely how if one is attentive in applying the process of sadhana. Somebody was asking the other day about whether Prabhupada spoke about Siddha Swarup. You were asking, I think. Somebody was asking, did Prabhupada ever speak about Siddha Swarup or Swarup Siddhi? Our Siddha Swarup means here actually in the purport, it mentions about one will attain, spiritual body, spiritual form.
Yeah, his opulence is same as mine.
Opulence.
Opulence is similar to mine is.
Yeah, but the idea is that even before returning to the spiritual world, one who properly applies the process, just like we read the wonderful examples of the Goswamis in Vrindavan. And so Prabhupada was making the following point, that just like this body that we have, when we're young boys, we don't understand about sex life. But when the body grows, then there is a natural biological development and a natural attraction. Like young boys and girls, they play together, right? Little boys, children. But when they're older, they won't do that, or they shouldn't do that. So the point being that when the body sufficiently develops, isn't it? It's a very simple but very very good example of to understand our Swarup Siddhi. So that's why Prabhupada mentioned that one does not need to make any, one doesn't need to force the matter. One doesn't need to make extra endeavor by following the recommended process, Mahajana Jena Gata Sapantaha, as prescribed by the Mahajans, the great saintly persons, then naturally and automatically, in the same way that as the body develops, we the age of reason. What is the age of reason? At what age do we normally, that expression is there? No.
Age of reason. I don't know what age.
I believe it's the age of 7. Google it just to find out. The age of l'âge de raison. L'âge de raison. A young child, he's totally on the body platform, right? Anamoy, the Anamoy platform, Anamoy Gyan. It's not Gyan actually. It's Anamoy, Pranamoy, Jnanamoy, Vijnanamoy, and Anandamoy. These are the 5 levels of consciousness. And so, in other words, in the similar way that the body kind of, develops, and then we attain different levels. Did you get it? 7, age of 7, huh? Yeah. I mean, sometimes it might be earlier because we see some boys, very young boys, maybe at 5, and some boys are already 10 years old and they still don't get it, or it varies, but in general, by the age of 7, the age of reason, and then so these natural developments that take place, also happen, on the bodily platform, also happen on the transcendental platform in terms of self-realization. Mm. So therefore, in many places, like here in the Bhagavatam, also in the Bhagavad Gita, similar instruction is given. For example, in the second verse, we don't have it. Second verse of the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 14. Idam jnanam upasritya mama sadharmyam agataha. Krishna was just beginning that chapter by telling Arjuna that I am going to now reveal to you this most confidential knowledge, jnanam vijnanam. And then he says, by cultivation, can you read the verse loudly? Idam jnanam upasritya
mama sadharmyam agataha sargepi
nopajayante
pralayena vyathanti cha.
You can read.
By becoming fixed in this knowledge, one can attain to the transcendental nature. Which is like my own nature. Thus established. One is not born at the time of creation. Nor disturbed at the time of dissolution.
Now we should understand this. Not disturbed at the time of dissolution means not disturbed when the body is destroyed.
He's telling time of creation and dissolution. That is for you.
Yeah, but there's different creations and different dissolutions. Yes, the verse is speaking about creation and dissolution.
Because it mentions pralayena.
Yes. But we can also, because in the Bhagavatam, it mentions how there are different 4 types of destruction, isn't it? The destruction at the end of the day of Brahma, the destruction at the end of the life of Brahma, and the destruction of our body, and there's a 4th one.
But destruction of our body, in Sanskrit, they not use pralaya. It is mentioning as pralaya.
It may not be used as pralaya, but we can also, because it is a fact, means when one when one develops this consciousness, then what are the 2 main effects of one who is actually on the Paramahamsa level, one who is self-realized? He transcends the he transcends the 3 modes of material nature, and what else does one transcend?
Birth and death.
Huh?
Birth and death.
Birth and death. No. So one still has to die. But he transcends the 3-fold miseries of life. There's a difference, right? The 3 modes of material nature and the 3-fold miseries of life. Of course, there's a connection, but one transcends. That means that at the time of death, most people are extremely fearful at the time of death because they don't know what's going to happen. But a self-realized soul is situated above the dualities of the material world and situated above the 3-fold miseries of life. So these instructions, therefore, are reassuring to devotees and also encouraging in that if we follow these instructions that are given by the Lord, then even though at times some, recurrences may be there, but we will not, if we are fixed up, we will not be, we will not be affected by that. Yeah. However, in the before reaching that level of transcendence, the influence of Maya is extremely powerful, that it will also act on the devotees who are not yet situated on that platform. That is, I forget the Sanskrit term, but there are two terms describing the workings of Maya. It's referred to, in English, it's translated as the the covering potency of Maya. Try to find those two terms. The covering potency of Maya and the throwing potency of Maya. Just like if one is fortunate to become a devotee and starts cultivating this knowledge, then he is no longer covered by Maya. See, ordinary people who don't have any knowledge of Krishna consciousness, they're totally covered by Maya, isn't it?
Prakshepatmika Shakti and
Yeah, right. That's why I can't remember that. Show it to me. Oh, you can't give it to me.
I put it in form.
Okay, yeah, right. Okay. So the devotees are, when one who cultivates Krishna consciousness, he's no longer covered by Maya, but because Maya is so powerful, one can be at times like thrown off, yeah, the path. Maya has two potencies with which to execute her two functions. The Prakshepatmika Shakti, which is the power to throw the living entity into the ocean of material existence, which can happen to a devotee who is not liberated from the mode of material nature. And the other potency is Avaranatmika Shakti, the power to cover the knowledge of the living entity. That's the condition of the majority of living entities. That's called Baddha Jeev. Baddha Jeev, Baddha Jeev is, we could say, of two natures. Baddha Jeev is that living entity who is fully covered by the mode of ignorance, not knowing at all that he's different from the body. And Baddha Jeev is someone who is who has taken up the process of Krishna consciousness, but is still under the influence of the mode of material nature. In other words, we are in a we are in the process of leaving the state or the condition of Baddha Jeev and becoming Mukta Jeev. And this can happen, this is our great fortune, which is made possible by, by the Vaishnavas. That's the special work of the Vaishnavas. Within one lifetime, although it is generally it's not possible within one lifetime. I mean, traditionally, our acharyas, our Vaishnava acharyas explain how, and generally people in India who have not come in contact with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's process, they are of the understanding that, well, it's, it's going to take many lifetimes. But this is the special feature and mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is explained by Srila Prabhupada on a number of occasions, that within this one short lifetime of Kali Yuga, by taking fully to the process given to us by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it is possible to wind up our business within this lifetime. And we should be endeavoring for that. But unless one is very serious in applying oneself, then it will take many lifetimes. But Srila Prabhupada did mention also that it's just like during the rainy season, there is sometimes like the sun rays come in Kali Yuga. This particular period we are living right now, and it's important to understand that, at least to have some realizations about it. It's like what they call a window of opportunity. We are born just like, practically speaking, right after Krishna has appeared, and especially after Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has appeared, and Shastra is explaining and predicting that this is a very unique opportunity, very rare opportunity, within a very short period of time to actually work things out in such a way that we can get out of this material world and this material world of suffering and entanglement and whatnot. And of course, the Lord Chaitanya, one of the purposes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance, of course, over and above demonstrating, playing the role of a devotee, was to teach us the importance of the Bhagavatam, isn't it? That the Bhagavatam is the means by which we can, the means of conquest, as we recite every day. It is our means of conquest by which we can conquer over these modes of material nature. And at the time of death, or even before, we can attain the same nature as the Lord. And yeah, the main characteristic here being explained is that someone who is self-realized no longer sees anything as separate from me. The self-realized soul sees everyone engaged in Krishna's service, either through his Daivi Prakriti or Mohini Prakriti. Okay, we can go to the next verse. Text 38. Dukko darkeshu kameshu jata nirveda atmavan ajignasita madharmo munim gurum upavrajat. Translation and purport: one who is detached from sense gratification, knowing its result to be miserable, and who desires spiritual perfection, but who has not seriously analyzed the process of obtaining me, should approach a bona fide and learned spiritual master. purport. In the previous verses, Lord Krishna described the duty of one who has developed perfect knowledge. Now Lord Krishna discusses the situation of one who, desiring self-realization, has become detached from material life but lacks perfect knowledge of Krishna consciousness. Such a detached person desiring spiritual realization must approach the lotus feet of a bona fide spiritual master in Krishna consciousness, and then he will quickly come to the standard of perfect understanding. One who is seriously inclined towards spiritual perfection should not hesitate to adopt the regular discipline necessary for achieving the highest perfection of life. And therefore, Prabhupada would give the example of Gandhi. Gandhiji, Mahatma Gandhi, was obviously very interested in spiritual life. You know, you don't carry the Bhagavad Gita wherever you go unless unless you have some interest in spiritual life. But Gandhiji, bless his soul, never accepted a spiritual master. So Prabhupada points that out because that is that is standard. He wrote a number of books. One of them was, of course, this village Swaraj is quite popular, very important for devotees also. But then he wrote another book. I think the title being my
experiments with truth.
Yeah, my experiments with the absolute truth, eh?
With truth.
Or with the truth. Okay, yeah, because he doesn't know about the absolute truth. My experiments with the truth. Well, this is precisely what one should not do, because Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita that vidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnanina tattva darshinaha. If one wants to know about tattva, the truth, then one has to follow that process, which is mentioned here in this verse, of accepting a bona fide spiritual master by the three prerequisites, or the three characteristics of being very humble, meek and humble, pranipat, by engaging in seva, and by being inquisitive. So these are the three characteristics of one who is serious about acquiring transcendental knowledge. And this also happens to be the very same characteristics that one should have as even ordinary student, because ultimately one who is inquiring about transcendental subject matter, he's we could say spiritual student. So just like in the context of Gurukul, these same characteristics need to be there, and therefore when we hear the nice description given by Narada Muni in the 7th canto, he mentions how, and Prabhupada also would often explain, one of the foremost qualities of someone who is in Gurukul, of someone who is actually serious about acquiring transcendental knowledge, is is to develop this this mentality, service attitude, which is only possible if one is in proper consciousness. Therefore, the rendering of menial service means one has to be develop this a quality of meekness and humility. Therefore, most important aspect is developing proper character. Character formation is foremost in Vedic training and education. So, any thoughts or questions on this? Yes.
Can you please, Maharaj, describe briefly the differences between Nitya Baddha and Nitya Jiva souls?
Nitya Baddha.
I have read this in Bhagavatam that there are souls in spiritual world, or it's even the majority of souls who never didn't go to material world.
Yeah, they are Mukta Jiva, not Nitya Jiva. All the Jivas are Nitya. Yeah, so those in the spiritual world, Mukta Jiva, and those in the material world, Nitya Baddha. Yeah.
Because I never didn't quite understand how the Jiva can decide to go to material world, or I have also...
You'll never be able to understand. Yeah, actually, Prabhupada explains how, because that question it has been there probably since time immemorial, and I think will be there for an eternity possibly, because in our conditioned state we cannot understand. Therefore, we have to understand the way our acharyas understand it, isn't it? What we cannot understand because of our conditioned state, because of our being very small, insignificant, we need to take reference from how our acharyas understand it, isn't it? So our acharyas, our Vaishnava acharyas, who are our authority, they explain that in a few ways. They explain that because we have the same qualities as Krishna, being created by him, being part and parcel, therefore we have this minute independence. We can understand actually in a material example. It's like when two people meet, they may develop some friendship if the conditions are favorable. But if it's not, then let's say, as often the case may happen, I'm in love with this person, but this person doesn't care for me. Or I like this person, but this person doesn't like me. So it means that this relationship between two individuals cannot be forced, isn't it? Love is not something that can be forced. So Krishna has created us in such a way that he wants us to spontaneously render service to him, not by force. So therefore we have that minute independence. And that minute independence can be misused. That is one of the explanations given. It's just like, for example, we have, closer to home, so to speak, since the Krishna consciousness movement, since Prabhupada established this movement, in the early days, of course, mostly young men, young women, they came, they joined, and then after some years, they got married, some of them, most of them, they had children, and they were all expecting that their children also become devotees. But lo and behold, many of them chose not to, or happened, or left Krishna consciousness. Many of them came back. But in other words, even someone who's born in a family of devotees, they have to make that choice at a particular time. Of course, they have, in many ways, if they're brought up in a family where both parents are very ideal, then there's all good possibilities that they will, kind of take Krishna consciousness. But at some particular point, they need to make that choice, and it cannot be forced by the parents or by anyone. So in a similar way, we are given that opportunity, that choice to serve Krishna or not to serve him. That's part of the explanation. The other aspect is that Srila Prabhupada mentions that somehow or other, because from our perspective, we will say, well, if we were in the spiritual world, why in the hell did we make the wrong choice? Yeah, right. And find ourselves in this hellish condition of having forgotten Krishna, and it's like such a complicated situation where we have been going through this, before attaining this human body that we have now. We don't know how often we've had a human body before. Even if it's the first time we have obtained a human body, we've gone through so many other species, isn't it? We've been around in the material world, suffering in all, every single time that we accept. and we are forced by the laws of nature to transmigrate from one's body to another, etc. So that is the explanation given by by our acharyas, that somehow or other, by Srila Prabhupada directly, somehow or other we have misused our minute independence, and we have, and therefore we immediately find ourselves separated from Krishna. Just like, again, another example, in the material world, if, for example, we're dealing with different people, sometimes with somebody we know, but somehow we, at one point, maybe make a mistake and offend that person. Prabhupada just explained that in India, especially, when you offend someone, it's like breaking what is it? A vase. You can never really put it back together. So Prabhupada, I think, gave this example especially because India is it's a land of dharma, so therefore that highest culture, the highest culture actually is in relation to developing loving relationships. And of course, the perfection of that culture, the perfection of that relationship is that with Krishna. So we can observe that, I'm sure we've all had possibly a similar experience of either somebody doing something to us, and we just, our feelings and our way of dealing with that person is changed. And sometimes it happens, people carry it for the whole life. He did that to me, or this happened, 50 years ago. People carry it to the grave, practically speaking. So somewhere along the line, something like this happened to us, between us and Krishna. And therefore, to repair.